So in this video, we're going to do a deep dive into why you're not selling more properties in 2023. So again, really quick couple points that I want to make just to start off this video is there's only a few reasons why you're not selling more property. Number one, you're not making enough calls, right? You're not generating enough opportunities. I mean, that's what it, or leads, right? I mean, that's what it kind of stems from, right? Again, I have a few coaching students that I was just speaking to recently, and some of them were saying like they only make like 10 or 20 calls a day. You need to be having like 10 or 20 calls an hour, right? I mean, like, you know, for 7 or 8 hours a day right now. I mean, like, this is not the type of economy where you can make 10 or 20 calls a day and make a lot of money. Number two, you are not resourceful enough to find great opportunities. So again, I want to stress what this means. Not opportunities in the sense of leads, but opportunities in the sense of great deals. That means you're struggling to find great deals to sell to your buyers, because this is the economy right now where if it's not a great deal or at a great price, you're not going to sell it. Right? Whether it's commercial or residential, you're just not going to sell it right now. Because unless it's priced appropriately, it's not selling, right? It's not like it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2020, 2021, where it could be at any price just about, and properties were flying off the shelves faster than they can even be listed. Interest rates were 2%, so it was just like basically free money. Even if a property was a 4 cap in the commercial world, people were like, you're still making great money. Crazy thinking, but again, that's just like finding a 9 cap in today's market where interest rates are 7. It's the same thing. That 2% spread, I mean, that's essentially what people try to look for a lot of the times, but again, just getting oversimplified. But your output's super low. You're not sourcing good enough deals. Or number 3, especially in the commercial world, you don't have enough great buyers to sell your stuff to. Because again, these 3 things will make you a ton of freaking money. Let's dive into each one of these 3, because it's very, very important to understand where each one of these 3 come from, okay? And how to change them and how to enhance them. This way, you don't have this problem anymore. Now, the first one, call it the amount of calls you're making. Because I'd say it like this. My sales teams typically are making anywhere between 500 and 700 plus calls per day. Not conversations, but calls per day. We are using a dialer. We obviously export a lot of properties. If every single agent thinks like this, and this is exactly what I did for a number of years back in the, at the very beginning of my career, I was making 500 plus calls a day every single day. My goal every day was either 3 appointments or 100 conversations. That was just my minimum. Very, very rarely did I schedule 3 full appointments every day. It was more so I just had to keep calling until I hit 100 conversations, and I maybe set 1 or maybe 2 appointments, right? That was just me a long time ago. Now it's like most of the time with my agents, I'm like, listen, you need to be generating at least 5 or 10 leads a day, or you need to be having 100 conversations, whatever happens first, okay? In the commercial world specifically. 5 or 10 leads a day. And again, like I even try to tell them, like, if you did not generate 1 great lead today, it negates the other 9. Because if you generate 10 leads today and they're all 4 caps, 5 caps, or don't want to sell, or maybe just make me an offer kind of thing, it doesn't count. I'd rather you say I got 1 lead today and it was a freaking great lead than I got 10 terrible leads today. It just depends on what you're counting, but that's now today. Are you allocating enough time towards prospecting? And or are you making enough calls, right? First and foremost, are you time blocking off between 9 a.m. and really 1 or 2 in the afternoon? Like, that should all be for prospecting time. And by the way, I was even speaking to someone recently, great agent, making great money, and we were just talking about how he needs to double down on making more follow-up calls because he's doing a fantastic job in his business and he's got a lot of leads. And it's like, okay, well, maybe it makes less sense to make more prospecting calls. Maybe he needs to make more follow-up calls at this point, right? So now it's making almost 50-50 time allocated to more prospecting for new leads and 50-50 that second half of the time for follow-up. Let's flip into being resourceful enough to find great deals. Now, yes, it is important that you need to have a lot of deals or a lot of leads coming in order to find great deals. So that means not only the generation of new opportunities every single day from yourself and from your team or from your connections, there's a lot of other connections that you can be making to also help you source deals, as well as other agents, right? Like other agents who can't sell their own deals. They can, again, a lot of people know me in New Jersey and around the country as an agent to go to if they can't sell any properties, right? So if you have a great deal, and by the way, if you go to an investor or a buyer and they won't make sense of the deal and they're a very seasoned investor, probably not a good deal, but you can comment something down below saying, hey, you have a great deal, I want to connect. Cool. Let's just talk about being super resourceful. So like we talked about, your own lead generation from those leads. If it is not a 7, 8, or 9 cap or more in this market right now, you're probably not going to do a deal. And by the way, that's okay, because at least it's like if a girl says no to you at the bar, it's perfectly okay. Just go to the next person. It's not the end of the world. You're just going to try to find the next opportunity, right? I think it's just really important for people to realize that like a lot of what I see is people getting hung up on a terrible deal. They have this opportunity, this lead, and they think that it's going to work out, and it doesn't. And it's a terrible deal, but it takes them a week or 2 to realize it's a terrible deal because they want to pitch it 30, 40 times because it's the only freaking lead that they have. And guess what? Nobody wants it because it's not a good deal. I like to have 2 or 3 people who I know will just call a spade a spade. It's a good deal or not a good deal, and tell me why. My agents who will come to me like, hey, I got a lead, here's what it is, blah, blah, blah. I'll know, within 40 seconds if it's a good lead or not, based on what they tell me. And if it's a halfway decent one, then I'll bring it to a buyer and say like, hey, let's get an offer on the table just to start if we can get the negotiations going. But majority of the time, if it's not a good lead, I'll just say, listen, it's not a great lead. We'll follow up with them in 90 days to 6 months. It's totally okay. But this is not a great lead. Get back on the phone, let's find some good deals. 7, 8, or 9 plus cap rate day 1. Because again, if it's not a great deal right now, People aren't doing business. By the way, this is all the same stuff for the residential world. If it's not priced appropriately, then it probably is not going to sell. When you're speaking to a residential seller and you're at the listing appointment, you're gonna be like, hey, so just to be clear, do you want to list it at a price that will cause the property to sell? Or did you want to price it at some price that maybe or maybe not, it doesn't sell, or who knows? Treating things with that level of professionalism, and by the way, that is a sales tactic, but it's very smart to do because it will actually get you results. I promise you, because I've done it. If you're speaking to a commercial owner and they say something like, okay, well, I want $2 million for a $1 million property, it does not make sense, move on. It's okay. Let's just say it's a 6.5 cap. And he's like, well, listen, I'm looking for maybe around $2 million. Okay, so just to be super clear, if I got you an offer today, okay, because based on the last few properties that we've sold, typically things are trading between a 7.5% and 8% cap rate, which would put the value of your property at around $1.6 million. If I got you a contract at $1.6 million, you think we can get a deal done? What's gonna happen here is that the seller's gonna be like, listen, I don't know if I can do 1.6, but maybe I can do 1.7. If they're open, if they're not open, it's okay. No, listen, $2 million is my number, I don't need to sell it. You're not gonna negotiate them that far down, and maybe, unless you get a buyer to pay 1.95 or $2 million, they're not gonna do a deal. It just is what it is. Move on. So what? Next. It's okay. But if you present that type of offer and you can run numbers and you know that 1.6 million actually can make sense and your buyer will actually pay an 8% cap rate, and the seller goes, okay, well, listen, I won't do 1.6, but maybe if we can do 1.7, I can get a deal done. Fantastic. And then I'll go to a buyer and be like, hey, Bob the buyer, hey, listen, I got a great deal, 1.8 million, it's about a 7.25 cap day one, but they have value add upside. And then Bob's gonna be like, okay, listen, let me look at the numbers, and maybe Bob's saying like, listen, I won't pay 1.8. I'll pay 1.7. And then you go to the seller and be like, listen, they won't do 1.7. Best number I can get you is 1.65. I don't know if I can do 1.65, maybe I'll do 1.675. And then you can go to the buyer, say this to the seller first. Okay, just to be super clear, if I got you a contract today at 1.675 or a number that you can agree on, would you be totally against paying a 4% commission? Well, I won't pay 4, but I'll pay you 3. Because 3% would be roughly $50,000. You're looking at net somewhere around 1.625. Yeah, that's like my bottom line. Okay, go to the buyer and be like, hey, they won't do 1.7, do 1.725. And you can maybe get a deal done. You have a $100,000 spread and you can get a 6% commission. You see how you're kind of working in your numbers? That's the best way to do it. So again, you have to be resourceful and you have to be a fantastic negotiator when it comes to being super resourceful. Now, last thing, if you do not have a lot of great buyers that are willing and able to perform, it is so freaking crucial right now in the commercial world specifically that you need to find a great VIP list of buyers. These are people who can perform, who own a ton of property, and looking to buy a ton more every single year, regardless of what the market looks like, as long as the deal makes sense. The people that I work with most are people who buy 5 to 20 properties a year, minimum, own a number of properties already, but are looking to buy 5 to 20 properties plus a year. They have very clear criteria, and they also are very willing and able to perform. Means that they will close because they have the cash and they're ready to go and they have a history of closing previously. Those are the type of people I want to work with. And obviously you'd want to work with them too. And now here's the question. How do you find them? I have found these people through friends of friends, through cold calling other properties. And these are property owners of leads that I've called before and they just didn't want to sell, but they wanted to buy. And then I saw that they owned 10 or 20 or 30 properties. I went to go meet them for coffee. We had built a relationship. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. From your network, circle prospecting for other leads, and you're finding out who owns what. It could be other brokers who represent the buyer. That's okay if you just split your first couple deals. It's okay. I wouldn't recommend doing that for the rest of your career, but it's okay to do it on your first few. If you compare all 3 of these up, you have a crazy amount of activity going on. You're making a lot of phone calls, you're doing a lot of follow-up, you're doing the damn thing. Second, you're a great negotiator. You're being super resourceful when it comes to finding these great opportunities, okay? Whether from any of those types of resources that we talked about. And you have an unbelievable buyer pool. You are going to make a freaking fortune no matter what the economy does. Because again, I'm living proof of it. So again, if you like this type of video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.
If you're still watching this video, that means to me that you're a committed real estate agent and you're looking to take your life and business to the next level. I'm just curious. Why have you yet to schedule your free, no obligation coaching consultation? All you have to do is simply go in the description down below, and people are telling me this call has been the most unbelievable, the most powerful call they've had in their entire career. And here's just a few of the individuals who have taken full advantage of this call. And my mission is to support as many realtors as possible, build a 6- and 7-figure net income business so that they don't have to rely on this industry anymore for their everyday income. If you're a committed realtor, which I can seem like you are, all you have to simply do to take full advantage of this free coaching consultation is to go in the description down below and schedule your free call now.